Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys in a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike, and it is actually three guys in a stack of comics today. Mike's son, Jax, is joining us. Jax is a huge Spider-Man fan and probably the target demographic for the show that we are going to talk about today. I believe it's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, a 10-episode series on Disney Plus. Uh, Complicated history on this one. Started as an MCU prequel. Apparently, they decided to stop that and then make it its own thing. So we're just going to do a spoiler-filled breakdown on the show, our thoughts on it, whether we thought it was good or bad. This is a rare one that we know already. I believe there's already a season 2 and maybe 3 that has been greenlit on this show, so it will continue, regardless of what anything goes with it. I'll kick it to you guys first on it before I give my thoughts on the show. What did you think about the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon, gentlemen?
Um, I I saw the first.
Like
Uh,
6 episodes. Yeah, so the first six.
I saw the first
I guess
six.
the last four.
I missed the last four, so I got to play catch up. But I will say it's different in a lot of ways. But
Hmm.
it was fun to watch. I like the storyline. It's almost like they just kind of revamped everything for this series, especially um, Peter's backstory and the character in the show is lovable. He's likable. He's friendly. He's from the neighborhood, and he's Spider-Man. So he's your friendly neighborhood. But he's just not the Spider-Man that I know. But it was fun to watch.
Okay.
Jax.
So I thought overall it was okay. There were some great moments, but there were also some moments that really brought it down.
Yeah.
Um, I think the primary issue is that he kind like Peter just decided to become Spider-Man. He doesn't really have a compelling motivation. Like he sort of has a compelling motivation as it goes on. Like it makes sense why he's Spider-Man. He feels like he needs to do better, needs to protect
Hmm.
people. And this is his like first year as Spider-Man, so he's still figuring things out. And it was like I really did like his dynamic with Norman Osborn and how it sort of like came to a head in like episode 7 when he was fighting the Scorpion. I think that was probably my favorite episode of the show where he was fighting
Yeah.
Scorpion and Norman
This,
Osborn
they did Scorpion pretty well. He was menacing.
and he was ignoring him because he was focused on tracking down Otto. And then obviously we got the Green Goblin tease with the glider. And yeah,
Hmm.
I'm glad that they really let it just be brutal and have a fight scene like that with the Scorpion, especially since a lot of people have wanted him to appear in the MCU, and he didn't because they did Mysterio and Far From Home, and then No Way Home. They did the whole multiverse thing, and they
Yeah.
kind of just let that whole character that was established in Homecoming
They
go
kind
to
of
the
let it go
side.
away.
They brought him back in the show, and they did him really well. And yeah, I thought even though like we didn't get the traditional Spider-Man side cast, that was still done well. Like I think Nico was a pretty likable character. I liked this rendition of Harry. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, why did they design him like that? That looks kind of stupid." But I think as a character, Harry was done pretty well here. Um, Lonnie, I think, was probably the strongest supporting character. Um, I could see an argument for like how maybe like him becoming Tombstone has been like a little rushed, but like it's still it makes sense for his character. He's a caring, like protecting guy, and he feels like he kind of
Sticking up for his little brother.
yeah, he has to even like stay in the gang even when he has an opportunity to get out because he feels like that's what he needs to do to protect everyone like in his neighborhood from like the
Being
score.
and all that. Yeah.
And yeah, it was cool seeing him help Spider-Man fight Scorpion in episode 9. And episode 10 did a lot of good things to set up season 2. Oh, actually, before I even get into episode 10, forgot to talk about Daredevil. That was like the episode with
Oh,
Daredevil in it.
yeah.
It was
Yep.
cool seeing him fight Daredevil. I think the animation was good. I like the guy Charlie Cox to voice him, but I do think that interaction could have been a little bit better because all the Daredevil really says is Osborn is hiding something, but he didn't really get too specific, and I feel like if he
Yeah,
had
Daredevil was
said what
unnecessarily cryptic to make it to
You could have
where
helped him out a little bit, right? What's going on, DD?
yeah,
Come
I
on.
think it's the weirdest show I've ever seen. And one of the complaints I'd have is I wish a Spider-Man cartoon was a little more kid appropriate, but this was clearly going for a PG-13 tone to try to match the movies, and so I'll give it some grace on that, even though I don't love that. Um, Positives of the show. I thought the costume design was pretty cool throughout. I thought it was interesting. I love they did some callbacks to stuff like Prodigy and Dusk and the comics from those weird Identity Crisis comics. I thought that was kind of cool. I do think the design on like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man at the end when they're fighting together, but seeing both Ditko characters kind of in the show and seeing them get their moment was pretty cool. Charlie Cox's Daredevil was the highlight of the show for me, and that's awesome to see him as the character. Um, the rest of the show, I just don't know what it was. It wasn't Spider-Man for me, and I think Stan and Steve did this really inventive thing. They gave Peter Parker a character arc, and this show really didn't do that. And that
No.
Peter, when you meet him in the comics, is kind of a jerk. He believes he's better than the rest of the world because he's smart. They pick on him. He has a necessary kind of rage against that. When he gets the spider powers, he more feels like now I'm physically better than you, and I'm always mad. And it takes the tragedy of Uncle Ben's death to turn him into the character that he is. In this show, he's just like you said, Jax. He's just always Spider-Man. He just decided I'm going to be Spider-Man. Like he was a hero before he got bit by the spider, and then after he gets the spider, it was almost more of a Steve Rogers Captain America thing. Of he was just always a good guy, and the spider bite just turned. And that's not Peter Parker. That's not
Or,
Spider-Man.
or like a Hal Jordan thing. Like he was
Yeah,
always that good guy, or like the Flash, he was a
I
good
think
guy, and then he got
he
superpower.
just got the powers and was I think the other thing that was interesting for me in the show is none of the Peter Parker hallmarks that were even challenges when he's Spider-Man were challenges. His friends find out he's Spider-Man were pretty much like, "Oh, you're awesome." I mean, Nico was mad at him for like a total of one episode, and that was about it. He's popular at school. The girl he likes him. The jocks are celebrating with him and think he's great. Like none of the Peter Parker hallmarks that made the character relatable in the comic books were there in this. And I think
So
that was
for
the most interesting choice. It's almost like the show's message was like Peter was always awesome and he's even more awesome now. And that's a really weird thing to do with Spider-Man. It would be to me like Bruce Wayne's parents never get shot, and he just decided I'm going to be Batman. Like, I guess you could do that, but that's a really essential piece of the origin. Go ahead, Mike.
I think everyone knows Bruce Wayne's origin story and Peter Parker's origin story. Um, they were both set up in a thoughtful way to get those characters to from point A to point B. We had to believe in them. At this point, with all these years behind them, I think the studios have just decided to move past that. Why waste valuable fight scenes telling an origin story that everybody always knows? I don't agree with it. I would love to see them,
I think the thing is, I agree
but
they don't
I
need to
think
show Uncle Ben get shot, but just kind of making it that like Uncle Ben's nothing. Like Uncle Ben, was he Jax? I don't know if I missed it. Was he ever mentioned?
he
Yeah.
was the
Like at the
videotapes. Remember?
beginning, right? Maybe
Yeah,
for like one
um,
sentence.
in episode 8, I believe. Yeah, after he fought Scorpion, he and Aunt May talked about Uncle Ben, and she said like, "I wish he was still
Yeah,
here, so
okay. Yeah,
he could,
you're right.
like be a role model at this point in your life." She kind of felt like she was like inadequate, that like she needed Ben
Yeah,
to like.
okay. I remember that. Yeah.
I think like Uncle Ben wise, that's like the best sort of illusion we have gotten to
To
him
him.
so far. I think that part I think was done pretty
Well,
well. So at least he's kind of like important. He's established to be an important figure in his life, but not in the way that
He
I feel
was in the comics.
necessarily should. Yeah. I feel like that's one aspect of the comics that I think in any adaptation should generally stay the same, and there's not a need to change it. Like I think it can still turn out all right if they do change it. Like I still think the show turned out all right without Uncle Ben's death being Peter's motivation, but it ultimately will always be better if that is his motivation.
Well, let me put this to you, Jackson, and your friends that are fans of Spider-Man. So, um, all your friends, we've had conversations over the years about how, Spider-Man came to be and the importance of Uncle Ben and Aunt May and all of this kind of stuff. But you guys grew up in a, MCU universe kind of thing. So, is it is it that you're just so glad to have a fresh Spider-Man cartoon that you can just uh, put that to the side, or does it really matter? Everyone knows that version of Spider-Man, brilliant as it was, for a piece of comic book literature to be set up the way it was, the characters developed the way they were in the early 1960s. Does it matter to your friend group if Disney just comes aside and says, "Hey, we're just going to make Spider-Man super popular and everybody loves him"? And are you okay to roll with that character?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with to roll with that character, even though I do find it to be a bit disappointing because even though this isn't the Peter Parker that I would have preferred to see, the comic accurate version of the character on its own, he still
There's still
works.
enough of a tether that it
I'm
that it
still able
hits you.
to enjoy it, but obviously I would prefer if it's more comic accurate. But the way that it was written, I think was fine. It just could have been better. Like it's
There was just weird choices throughout. I think that were just like Nico Minoru and Amadeus Cho and all these characters being in his world. It's like they kind of just threw a pin in a Marvel character map and were like, "You get to be in the show." And it's like, I
yeah,
guess you could put him
And
in there.
I
Um,
mean, on the writer's desk, when you're envisioning the show, and envisioning a character that has 60 years of history and trying to bring something new and entertaining, I could see the writers choosing more obscure characters to bring to light. We would we have loved Nico to have been Mary Jane? Yeah, but
Jane, or
maybe
even if you wanted to do their part of representation that they're always talking about, you could have used Shen from the comic books. You could have used Randy Robertson. I think there were weird choices. And again, like people are going to complain about, Norman Osborn doesn't look like he does in the comics. I don't really care about any of that. Would I have done that personally? No, I would have drawn him to look more like the comics. But people make decisions like that as long as the character reasonably acts like the character. I don't really care too much about that. Again, I personally would make them look like the comics, but I don't think it's a huge differentiator. I do just wonder the big thing that I would say my final kind of takeaway of it is while I think there was some good elements and why I think the show works, and I will watch the season 2 of it. I do. Me and you talked a little bit ago, Mike, about like some of the superheroes don't act like superheroes anymore, and some of the morals I think out of comics are just missing now. And see, one of the things I don't like about this is it's basically this Peter was just always awesome message. This is not this character. Peter is a guy who was created out of a tragedy of his own making, and I always loved Spider-Man because of that element of he's not a hero originally. He has to mess up, and then he is always trying to be a better man because of that. I think when you remove that, it's just it's kind of like what Star Wars did with Rey compared to Luke Skywalker, where Luke had to earn it and was kind of a brat and lost and had to work his way up. And so by the time he got to Empire Strikes Back, and he's this fully or Return of the Jedi, and he's the full Jedi as a journey. Whereas with Rey, it was like first movie she whoops the bad guy the first time she ever touches a lightsaber. By the third movie, it's like okay, it's the fourth time she's beaten this guy, and I think that was some of what I didn't like with Spider-Man in this, where it's just like dang man, like so Peter just he's just like the greatest. It's more a Superman thing than but even more so than Superman because it wasn't even like he had the Kents around to teach him all these amazing morals. The message of the show, Peter is just an amazing human being in this show, and I get that's okay. Like the costumes are cool and they got the theme and all that stuff, and there's enough to get it. It is just weird that they chose to take that redemption angle out of the character for me at least, but.
I love the
We'll
Star
see.
Wars Ray analogy, by the way. That was really apropos, sir.
yeah.
It's
The redemption aspect of this character is like one of
completely gone,
the
right?
most important. everything that was missing in this. Like, sure, like we do see him struggle. You do see that, like he is like kind of struggling to find a balance between, um,
His friends.
like between like using his full strength when fighting bad guys or just like getting beaten up. Because like, um, again, like I don't really know how like Norman like knew this, but he was like, yeah, clearly you're holding yourself back and you
Yeah,
need to
like how
stop.
Norman knew he wasn't using his. There's a lot, and again, maybe season two, season three will add the developments. I think the other thing is sometimes we jump the gun. They might reveal that he did play a hand in Uncle Ben's death and get that. So we don't have all the puzzle pieces yet, and so I think sometimes there is a bit of being overly critical. I hope they do something with it. Again, I think it was interesting. I thought the graphics were kind of cool with it, but we will certainly see what happens over the next couple of seasons with the show. Let us know. What did you guys think below? What did you think of season one of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? Did you enjoy the change-ups? Did you think it was good? Mike Jackson, any last words from you guys?
Um, yeah, overall, it was an art show. I forgot to touch on episode 10. But like general thoughts on episode 10, the time
Oh,
paradox
the
thing.
time paradox that he basically, yeah, that's another. I don't know how I feel about that one. They'll have to expand on how that
Yeah,
works, I think, later on,
yeah,
hopefully. But that was a choice. That was a
yeah.
choice for sure.
Uh, the setup was done pretty well. I like the reveal that Richard Parker was still alive. There could be some
Mhm.
Mm.
cool stories with that. I like seeing that we're gonna see more Daredevil in season two, and that other person that was like infiltrating.
Daredevil's like sidekick, yeah. That was interesting too.
Yeah, and seeing Doc Ock, preparing to become Doc Ock, like after he gets out of prison, and seeing the Venom symbiote. Obviously, the director did say that there's a chance more of Peter's original, like cast
Roots
of
could appear on
characters
it.
might return, and I hope one of those is Eddie Brock in season two.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully we get an Eddie Brock Venom. And like I'm hoping with all the can we get an actual Mary Jane Watson? Like we've done the changed character in this. Can we
Mhm.
act? I'm just that's if they give me a red-headed Mary Jane Watson who says stuff like "Go get him, Tiger" to him, they will redeem a lot of this because
yeah,
that's the one character they just refuse to give us in movies or TV anymore.
yeah, like
It'll be interesting to see.
Spider-Man. Yeah, that was like the last time we had a good MJ in Spectacular.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah, since obviously I don't think Pearl is gonna end up being like his final like love interest. I
nah, it
hope
doesn't seem like
they
it.
do introduce MJ somewhere down the line. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. That is ups and downs, but overall, I enjoyed it and looking forward to season two and seeing what to do.
Okay, all you fans of Spider-Man, comment down below.
Below, let us know what you guys thought. Thank you as always for watching. We'd love to see what you guys think. As always, folks, have a great day. God bless you. We'll catch you in our next video.
Thanks, everybody.